Welcome to Week 8. This week we'll first outline the key drivers for the retention of analytics staff. Then we'll describe how analytics is used to improve employee retention. And then we'll look at the advantages of retaining analytics resources. Looking forward to it. Hi, welcome to Week 8. Managing analytics resources, some of the most valuable resources any enterprise can have. The learning objectives are: what are some of the key drivers for retaining analytics staff? How can we use analytics to improve employee retention of those staff and others? And what are some of the advantages of those tools? So as was mentioned earlier, data science is a somewhat, there's no set definition, but Shelley Palmer in 2015, I think, had a pretty good framework where she defined data science as the overlap between mathematics, computer science, and domain expertise. In fact, a really good data scientist has all three. So, as is depicted here, data science is a relatively new term, but in the same sense, it's really not. It's really quite old. It's just got a new name to it. So other genres or evolutionary steps that are part of data science are shown here. For a long time we called it business intelligence. Forever we've used statistics, database management, visualization, machine learning and data mining, and finally artificial intelligence. And of course, big data. So here's some of the entities or companies that use a lot of data science, and you recognize all of them. Here are the tasks of the data scientist. First and foremost is data analysis, and we've talked about modeling, in this case statistical modeling, and engineering and prototyping, and that's using a predictive model. And of course, visualization is very important to be able to gain insight into what's with the data that's being analyzed. So the key question is human versus machine. Human beings have a lot of domain knowledge. They have a lot of insight and experience. A machine actually can do a lot of things at the same time, do a lot of computations. It's always objective. It only uses numbers and things like that. So another definition of a data scientist is a data scientist is the adult version of the kid who can't stop asking why. So this just shows one of the key attributes of a data scientist. The science part of them is always searching for new discoveries, in this case in data. Another definition is a data scientist is a statistician who lives in San Francisco. So these are some illustrations of data scientists, men and women that do a lot of different things with data. Visualize it. They try to understand things from a lot of different perspectives, but this just shows different points of view of that. What friends think they do, what their mom thinks they do, what societies think they do, and so forth. So Harvard Business Review had an article that they entitled "Data Scientist is the Sexiest Job of the 21st Century." The lack of talent in the area of data science and the huge demand make it one of the most desirable careers one could take on at this time. To illustrate the point, a data scientist on average not even a very experienced one, on average can make over $100,000 a year. A senior one can make close to $1,500 or $150,000 a year, and that's just the average. So that you can imagine the higher end of both of those career paths. Salaries are pretty good. Compared to a BI developer, an earlier stage in data science, they make right around half of what a data scientist makes. So it's not equivalent at all. They're different skill sets, a different level of competency. So a data scientist is a rare but highly valuable resource. And so one might question whether we can use data science to be able to attract and retain that valuable resource and others within the firm. It turns out it's true. So using analytics to attract and retain valuable resources is a 4-step process. And they're being depicted right in this slide. So the most important thing is to ask the right questions. And a lot of companies will use employee surveys. Typically, the ones that have been used over course of time are a little bit too narrow. We really need to talk about 3 areas: the work environment, the leadership environment, and the learning environment. All 3 of these need to be in place to attract and retain valuable resources. To use statistics in your analysis. And we've talked over the course of this class about various types of analysis that can be applied. And this again, probably based on surveys, instruments, but multivariate analysis, correlations, and comparisons of mean or t-tests. So here's an example of a unified analysis database for the purpose of attracting and retaining valuable resources. And it hits on all 3 of those domains, the work environment, the learning environment, and the leadership environment. So based on these different subcomponents of analysis, we can come up with actionable insights to improve outcomes. So this just shows, common sense compared to insights that are gained through analysis. It's like night and day. A lot of times, personal bias and lack a very narrow point of view could really limit effectiveness of purely anecdotal or gut feelings compared to actual statistical analysis. So it really opens up the opportunities to make big improvements in outcomes. It's also important to have insightful reporting. Having something that's visual and spawns great interpretation of the underlying data is really important. It's really important that these are very simple and understand, because managers don't have a lot of time to digest them and interpret them. The side of the business is extremely important and increasingly so. And so analytics is helpful in helping HR to speak the language of business and also understand the individual employee needs. Here's some of the best practices. The use of analytics shouldn't be a one-time thing. It should be an ongoing, evolving, and improving phenomena. And it's used to provide insights and actionable tasks at all levels within the organization. Finally, some things to avoid human resources may be tempted to use analytics to prove their worth. And that's actually something to avoid. The purpose of analytics is to improve overall retention and the environment of the employees, which is an inherent function of HR. In most cases where it's being used to prove HR's worth, HR is under duress and under fire, and therefore the whole purpose and objective and focus is not optimal. We also want to take quick action based on the insights. Don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good. Having good insights or relatively good insights is better than just trying to focus on having a perfect system. People are not perfect, then the analytics along with them won't be perfect, but they're better than operating on just intuition or gut. This completes week 8. Thank you so much for your time and attention.